Melee's getting stronger, combat's getting harder, and Midrath is getting world bosses. Here are the highlights from Devstream 9. First off, let's talk about Bromius. We should expect the Bromius fable to be a bit different from what we saw during TennoCon's Devstream 8. That demo was apparently a streamlined version, so we'll be getting something longer and more fleshed out, which I think is great. The Bromius Pact is presumably a reward from this fable, and in Devstream 9 we got to see its 3 abilities in action, which are all really cool. Rub Thump is an AoE jumping attack that deals both damage and stagger, Wevet Root is a linear CC ability, and Song of Growth is an armor buff that apparently has some kind of additional action or interaction on repeated cast. The animations all look amazing, but what's most interesting to me about this pact is what Scott said about armor and damage scaling. The damage dealt by Rumthump will scale off of your armor, which can be buffed by Song of Growth. This makes me very curious about virtue scaling for Song of Growth, as well as how your equipment's armor will interact with this ability. This is going to be lots of fun to test when it gets into game. Please give us functional target dummies, please, I'm begging you. And speaking of scaling, the question of damage scaling came up, and Scott confirmed that his intent is for Courage, Spirit, and Grace to affect ability strength, duration, and range respectively. That said, the fact that we're seeing Bromius' damage scaling work a little differently shows that the team is looking for interesting ways to have pact abilities synergize with one another, so I'm hoping that these types of interactions get shared with more of the other pacts as well. It sounds like the team is on board for some kind of balance pass for pact ability scaling, but it's not clear exactly how high that is on the priority list, or when we'll see those changes. What we will see, however, is a new health regain mechanic for melee combat. In Preludes 11, taking damage will show you a special bar on your health gauge, and melee attacks while that bar is active can regain that amount of health. This is an excellent way to make melee combat a bit stronger without nerfing ranged combat. It's a wonderful change, especially since they said they would be making all of the game's combat somewhat harder. In general, melee seems to have gotten a lot of attention in this update, which is great news, although they didn't mention anything about the targeting system. I really hope that's still something they're working on, especially with the upcoming difficulty increase, because changing one without the other could create a lot of frustration. Hopefully this is already in the works and just not something that came up during the stream. We got to see lots of new weapons in the Devstream, including Dwellian, a Fey sword with its own heavy attack animation, and Weeton, a sidearm that they didn't talk about at all but that I just really love and can't wait to try. The devs showed us at least 1 and possibly 2 cleavers, a new type of melee weapon with its own animation set. We also saw some Mockery-themed weapons and a Mockery-themed armor set, which will come from a new type of Mockery enemy. I love the look of this armor. We saw some concept art for more weapons that are probably not going to make it into Preludes 11, including a hammer, a shield, a polearm, and an ode-themed bow. They also said greatswords are in development, so those will be something to look forward to in future Preludes. We got our first look at the new starting armor sets, and it sounds like existing players will automatically receive the armor set they would have started with. I hope this doesn't mean it's only possible to have one of those 3 sets, because they also showed us armor transmog, and it would be so sad to finally get transmog at the same time we find out there are 2 skin sets we can't have. This would also incentivize new players to choose their starting loadout based on what skin they want rather than what they want to actually play, since every other aspect of this choice can be acquired later in the game through other means. So hopefully what the devs meant here is that while we can get the other starting armor sets through the game somehow, we will automatically have the one we would have started with. The new transmog system is going to work through reforging armor, but that's not the only change to cosmetics coming in Preludes 11. We're also going to get a new dye system that allows us to customize our armor colors. This is going to require increasing our bond with Verminia, which likely means a new fable with her, and creating or unlocking dyes will require new resources that are being added to the game. I'm not sure how I feel about this resource cost yet. My opinion is going to depend on how much resource is required and how easy they are to get, and whether or not the resource unlocks the dye or if we need them every time we want to dye something. I do very much like that we can pick the level of brightness and saturation when we dye something. That is an awesome feature I'm excited to use, especially since different materials tend to dye differently, so this is going to make mixing and matching armor sets a lot easier. And I am so excited to mix and match with the new gear coming to the game. Look at this diadem, it's so pretty! They also showed us an Ode-themed armor set and talked about Ode variants while showing a pact arm. It didn't sound to me like they were talking about a new pact here, but rather that this might be a new skin for pacts, or possibly specifically for Ode Tempest. Either way, it seems like a more distant future edition, not something coming in Preludes 11. What we will be seeing in Preludes 11 are world bosses. In general, there are many changes coming to Soulframe's overworld, and it's unclear how much of this cool concept art represents things we will actually get to see in the next update, but the world bosses definitely sounded like they are going to be part of P11 content. These are bosses that will be found at static locations, including some of these new or revamped points of interest, and they will have a 22-hour loot timer. Each one is going to have a special drop table, and we won't be able to relog spam to farm that table, so it sounds like doing a daily world boss circuit might be part of the future endgame loop for Soulframe. I think this is a really neat idea, but once again, I don't feel like I can form an opinion until I see how it's implemented in-game. I sincerely hope that our community's response to the drop tables for joinery encourages the devs to reconsider pure RNG drops past a certain degree of rarity. I noticed the spider boss dropping unique crafting materials, and if some amount of these materials is needed for crafting special items, that is a grind I'd be really happy with. Even if it takes a while, being able to see progress as my quantity builds up is much more satisfying than just praying for a lucky drop. Anyway, there was a ton more we saw in Devstream 9, but it seems like they were primarily things for P12 and beyond. Beavers are getting swimming animations, giant ducks are coming and they will be pettable, and we are going swimming! I can't wait to swim to the hidden island. We're also getting some new climbing animations, and those might come sooner. The timing on this wasn't clear to me, but I'm very glad this is on the way. The devs also mentioned some kind of special Verminia-related content for spooky season, so it sounds like there is a lot coming to Soulframe this fall. But not as soon as I'd hoped. The devs said Preludes 11 would be coming in late September, which is a bit heartbreaking for those of us who got used to having a new Prelude every 2 months, but it's not that far away, and the fact that I'm so impatient for P11 is just a testament to how many amazing things are coming with the update. I do have a guess about the actual release date, but I want to emphasize that this is just a guess, not something the devs said during the stream. On September 23rd, the Soulframe team is starting a 6-episode series called Envoy Hour, in which they will be playing Soulframe live and talking about the game. What caught my attention here is that they said they'd be playing on public, which would certainly give them some incentive to get P11 out by the 23rd. Of course, they could just play on the P10 build, so I'm sure this doesn't guarantee anything, but I really hope my suspicion is correct, because the 23rd really isn't that far away. If you like watching streams, then follow me on Twitch, because I'll also be streaming more often in the future. Please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for updated info on everything coming to us in Preludes 11 and beyond. What did you think of the Devstream? What are you most excited about in Preludes 11? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, happy hunting!